Get ready, please.
So Cox fours, as an athlete, you can just focus on putting the watts onto the water Cam.
Indeed. The Cox 4 to me is a very unique boat. So it was in the Olympics, obviously, back in the 80s and in the World Championships recently. But it's one of those boats where actually you can row it in two different ways. You can have it really nice and ploddy, and you can kind of pull that extra weight along in the Cox, who steers that beautiful line for you. But actually, when the boat's up to speed, it's not too different from a Coxless 4. And so if you can get that nice, light, loose rhythm, you can really generate good hull speed.
Well, that's what they're both going to be aiming to do. The Britannia is underway. Nottingham Rowing Club on the left of our picture. Frankfurter Germania Germania on the right of our picture. The Germans are here. They mean business. And, well, stroke James Dolman in the stroke seat of the Nottingham Rowing Club. He has a question on his mind. He's been knocked out in the first round at Henley 3 times by German crews, and he's going to try to change that story today. Well, he's through a couple of rounds, Cam. It's semi-finals day, and Nottingham have got off to a good start against Germania.
What a glorious Saturday to do it. So as we can see, these both boats here, really nice and high on the rating, getting that hull speed up, which is what you need to do in a Cox 4. Get off the start, get into the rhythm, and they're still here at a high pace, as we'd expect, coming through the island. Not much in it, a canvas, half a canvas. The real key is going to be in the next 30 to 40 seconds as these boats transition from that high pace, and who can hold on to the boat speed, keeping the length, keeping the boat moving along and tapping. So far, I think both crews are doing quite a nice job of that and keeping the rate nice and high.
Yeah, and that's moving from 0 to maximum speed in the minimum distance. That's physiologically really challenging. And I should have mentioned, Cam, you know, you're a medical doctor just back from Tokyo, where you've been supporting the Olympic Games there. Tell us just medically what's happening in that first few strokes of a race. Yeah,
absolutely. So when you're off the start, you have a bit of free energy that's lying around the body. It's the things that the sprinters use, called ATP. And that 10 seconds, you want to really get 5-6 strokes in as hard as you possibly can to generate that hull speed. Then you start burning fuel, and you've got a combination of your aerobic system, which is the oxygen using system, but also the anaerobic system. And that's the first one that starts to take over in that first phase, pumping in that lactic acid into the body. So what we're seeing now is, as the anaerobic system starts to kind of almost whir, as you like, that aerobic system takes over, and this is really where the true boat speed lies, the true physiology or the fitness of these athletes, which is where their boat pace is and how fit they are.
Well, there's an explanation, and you've heard many of us on the commentary team here this week talking about that change of gear from the start phase to the second phase, and that's the reason why, right? You cannot carry that kind of leg-burning lactate build-up from the anaerobic respiration through the whole track. And so far, I mean, I've got to say, whilst they got a jump on the start, the Germania crew are not moving much further through the Nottingham crew, and credit to Nottingham. After that shock of losing a few seats early on, they've held, and now, as both crews seek to make the transition you're talking about, Cam, that's the question. What's the base speed through the middle of the course for these two?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that people looking at this and actually rowing in Cox 4 sometimes it may get slightly wrong, is that they think it has to be this long, slow, ploddy rhythm. But actually, both crews here are showing us that you can row with a nice, light, loose, springy rhythm and get those hulls out of the water. We can see Germania here on that close side. They're really just generating a nice rhythm, all 4 oars plopping into that water with a nice, clean catch, and then really driving a fast pace to get that boat through the course.
Yeah, I love what you say there. For me, the Coxless 4 was always my favourite boat because of that less drag, just 4 athletes together, really smooth, fluid rowing is what makes that boat move. Didn't like the Cox 4 so much because, I mean, much I love coxing, and having coxes in the boat, the information, the motivation, the coaching that they bring, that extra bit of drag makes it just feel heavy. And you're right, when you've got a great crew rowing really well together, you can make the Cox boat feel as light as a Coxless boat. That run you want comes through, and you've got the advantage of having an expert coach and motivator on board.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And for me, I mean, I'm very fortunate to have won this event back in 2000. So actually, not this event, the student Cox 4s, the Prince Albert, back in 2007. And when rowing a really good cruise, and particularly with my international colleagues when I was rowing in the London Olympiad, you can really get fantastic rhythm, even with that extra weight of the Cox, who managed to steer that perfect line for you.
So just looking at the Nottingham Cox on the right of our picture, Eddie Allen glancing across, you can see him gesticulating, encouraging his men on their need to start attacking now in this critical phase of the race. But Henley in the Cox's seat of the Germania crew learned to cox at Jesus Boat Club. Cambridge had quite a Cambridge-coloured afternoon this afternoon, and she just asked her men to respond, and that's exactly what the Germania crew do.
And Nottingham here just dropping a little bit further back. So this is where, if you want to stay in the race, whatever race plan you had before, it needs to go out the window, because you need to build boat speed here. So you're already a few lengths down. It's time to really think about making a move to try and get back in touch with that crew out front.
Well, pretty decisive rowing there by Germania, opening up further lead over Nottingham. In the stern of that Nottingham boat, we've got James Dolman, we mentioned, and behind him Steve Bennett, and those two have rowed together for many years, a long-standing partnership, and that helps them to have cohesion and belief and to move the boat together. But right now it's the Germans that he feared, and the Germans are dominating the middle of the course, and it's pretty hard to start to respond from this kind of deficit, and that's what the cox has got to do. It's a critical time now for the cox in that Nottingham boat.
Absolutely, and Eddie Allen looks as though he's already made that call. The rate of striking in the Nottingham boat has gone up. They've made their move. They've almost listened to us, Matt, and they've decided to get back into this race, get back in touch. Otherwise, there'll be too much left to do by the time they get through the enclosures and towards the end of the line.
So you raced here, as you mentioned, in a cox boat. How much is the advantage of that motivation through and the focus that can give you through this part of the course?
So I think the cox brings a lot to a boat. I think, first of all, absolutely you have the steering. The calls, to me, are actually almost the most important thing, because, you know, we are human beings in the boat, whether there's 2, 4 or 8 of you, and psychologically just giving that call at the right time, getting a cohesive race plan together can make all the difference. So for me, they bring a lot of value to this event and a lot of value to the regatta.
So we're looking at the faces of Semple at bow, Parker at 2, Bennett at 3, and Dolman at stroke in the Nottingham crew, and ahead of them, well, Germania have really laid down a great race here. They were close on terms early through the race, but through the middle, I think their base pace was stronger, and they now sit in a really comfortable and commanding position, totally in control of the race, Cam.
Yeah, credit to them. I think that the rhythm that they're generating looks fantastic. They're really nice and loose, and it's always, I think, a little bit easier. Is that once you've just broken that elastic band of the crew behind you, you've got out to clear water, you know that actually you're a faster hull speed than the other crew. It's nice, and you can start to relax into that even more silky, long rhythm and nice long rowing. So credit to them.
You can see the sweat, you can see the spray as Nottingham continue to attack, but it's not going to be their day-to-day. Germania commanding lead, sitting there. Robert Schreiber in bow, Jakob Jägel in 2, Moritz Schneider in 3, and stroked by Jean-Philippe Dufour. And as they come through the enclosures, it's a lovely feeling for them, as you said, Cam, moving the boat in the way you want to see it, lively and light and long and strong, and that, well, they just had the speed through the centre of the race that made all the difference for them, and the Nottingham crew struggled to respond to that. So Germania in this round of the Britannia, the semi-final of the Britannia Challenge Cup, crossing the line first. Great performance for them. We don't still know their full speed. They weren't pushed all the way down the track. Credit to Nottingham, challenged all the way, but they didn't have the mid-course speed they needed. So great result for the Germans.